we're at the same. Oh, okay. Gotta be. Okay.
Or talk loudly for
That talking loud isn't a problem for me, unfortunately. Okay, guys, we'll probably get started here in like another minute or two. Let everybody get in and settled in and ready to go. Okay. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. Oh, actually, I'm gonna go. Happy members. I'm gonna give you whenever you're okay. Same thing, like. Is it Bobby's coming to do it?
Bobby was there. Oh, there you go.
I'll grab him. We're gonna get started. All right, guys, up here. So very, very excited about training today. We've got the man, the myth, the legend, Zane in the house. He's gonna go through and reiterate really the 3 R's. If I had to talk about what we're talking about today, if you don't know what the 3 R's are, then let's start there as our issue. If you don't, please ask your AD or GA. If they don't know, then come see me, please. So 3 R's are number one. No, I'm not going to give it to you. Let Zane do it. But today, very, very excited to have somebody that's going to have a lot of answers for you as well. But we have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. Dullest pencil remembers more than the sharpest mind. Listen, write it down, and then ask the questions. Okay. So Zane, very, very excited again to have you. He wouldn't be in the position he's in unless he got results in the field that earned him the opportunity to be in this position. So this is somebody that comes with a history of success in doing what you're doing in the field. Right. So I would absolutely listen to the words this man says. Okay. All right. You got it. Okay. Awesome. I know that a lot of you guys have seen me on the Zoom trainings and different things like that. So I'm not going to get super into it as far as like who I am and all of that stuff. Plus, I think I want to introduce me at the agency owner meeting. So you guys don't need to hear my story 7 times. But I will say a lot of times when corporate comes in a lot of different situations, it's not good. It's like, oh no, corporate's here. They're looking at us through a microscope. We're going to be in trouble. This is not good. That is the complete opposite of what we're doing here. My entire job is to help you guys out. I want to be here for your guys' questions. I want to see how we can actually grow this agency and our numbers and our people, everything, every metric that we can. So I always say, like, I'm not going to reinvent the wheel. I'm just here to make it a little bit smoother. Tony does great. You have great leadership that really cares about your guys' success. So I'm just another tool for you guys to use. That's really all I am. It's just for another outlet for questions, different things like that. And honestly, a lot of it's to reiterate, what Tony and all of your leadership is going through. I know that he said that I would go over the 3 R's. I actually didn't even put a 3 R slide on here. So the 3 R's are routes, research, and report. So these are the 3 things that, because when we look at your guys' data, again, your guys' DMs met is fantastic. Like it's probably the best of anywhere that I go, if I'm going to be straight up with you guys, as far as your decision makers met, which is fantastic. We can't do anything unless we see more decision makers, of course. We can't convert them. We can't have presentations. So you guys are seeing them. So now what can we do to really push forward and start getting a little bit more of those conversions? It's going to get really into those presentations and close cases, because the number that I always want to drive up is presentations. That's the biggest thing that I care about. I know I even said it the last time when I was doing your guys' training, that all I care about is presentations, really. Whatever we've got to do, because one, you guys are going to sell yourselves, because you guys are all fantastic at what you do. You went through classroom training. You guys are insurance professionals. I don't know, just want to make sure you all understand that everybody sitting in this room passed their insurance license test.
So if you guys know more than 95% of people when it comes down to what we do. So just remember that you're the insurance professionals, and then I'm just going to go ahead and dive right into this. So really, we're going over conversions. That's really the main thing. And so really our objectives here is we want to increase our appointments, which again, like I said, is going to increase our presentations. That's going to then in turn increase our closed cases. And then obviously you guys are making more money. You're going to move up higher in leadership. You're going to start hitting those personal goals for yourself and for your team that you guys are all looking for here. And I forgot to tell you guys. So I don't want to be somebody that just sits up here and talks at you guys. If you guys have questions, if you guys have comments, different things like that, raise your hand, speak up. Don't be afraid to stop me. Like, I don't want this to be, I hated it when somebody would come in and just talk at me for 20, 30 minutes. I'm here for you guys, like I said. So speak up. Don't be afraid to ask me something, or, get a little, if you want me to get a little more specific on things, whatever you need. And then the last thing, I guess, don't try to do everything that I say through here. If you want to know the truth, it's going to be really hard. I tell everybody, you listen to a 30-minute training, you feel like you're drinking out of a fire hose. You're not going to implement everything that I say. So pick out 1, 2 different specific things that you're actually going to take out in the field and use actually out in the field to implement this week. So we're obviously here on Monday. I am very adamant that this is the most important day of the week. This is where we set everything up. My AD always used to say, Mondays are where you make your check, and then the rest of the week where you go pick it up. Just because so much of what we have, if we're prepared, if we're reared up and ready to go, we are going to get more results. I know me personally, just so you all know, if you don't know, I started out in the field. I was an agent just like a lot of you guys just starting out. I was like, I don't want to drink this Kool-Aid that these guys are doing. Why are people smiling on a Monday? But when I was out in the field, I know if I had a good route, if I had good research, if I knew that every single one of my leads was Pat called the correct way, I was more excited to get that out through the week. I'm going to be straight up with you guys. Every single week was not that. Now, the weeks that I did, that's when I saw so many more results. I was hitting more businesses. I was getting more conversions. I was having a lot more fun. I didn't feel like I was getting through with the day and wanted to bang my head on the dash. But those days, those weeks that I wasn't getting as many conversions. I was getting a little bit demoralized, and that was specifically on me. So if you take anything from this, is like, let's take some self-accountability on Mondays and make sure that every single thing, that we're doing is setting us up to be intentional with every single walk-in that we're going into. So we're going to make sure that our 10 blocks is complete. Show of hands here, who has filled out their 4-week forecast or even knows what that is? Okay, awesome. That's great. Fantastic. For some of you brand new guys, you're going to be like, I have no idea. That's because you don't have things yet. So for me, the 4-week forecast, that's on the other side of your 10 blocks. I want to know where my money was coming from. We're 1099. We're all business owners. If you were in a construction job, you probably don't want to know what jobs you had lined up that you were going to be making money off of, what jobs you were going to be finishing. That's the exact same thing. Making sure that we know what enrollments we have coming up. On Monday, I'm looking like, okay, I know I've got 2 enrollments coming up this week. So I know I need an enrollment for the next week, though, because I'm completely wide open, because it's up to me to go out and make a paycheck this week. So I know what days already before I'm even starting the week that I have for enrollments. So that's one less thing I have to worry about. I could get this out of the way so I can see my own things. And then making sure that our packs are getting done 100% the right way. I am not going to sit around and lie to you guys and say that pack calls are the most fun things that we do. I'm not going to act like it isn't, but it is so imperative to everything that we do. That's where everything starts. If we don't, there are no shortcuts in this. The people that I see fail the most are the people that start to try to take shortcuts in this. That is 1,000% what it is. It's either you don't want to get out there and work, or you're trying to cut corners through all of this. I know I'm going to talk about it on this. The only shortcut we have at all is referrals. In this, if you follow this system, we don't have 10 years of straight growth for no reason. A lot of your leadership, including myself here, would not be in the position we're in if we didn't have the system that we have in place. So please just trust it. Make sure that you're getting the right address, that you have those decision makers that you actually need, that you know how many employees they have, so that you're not driving, even if it's 5-10 minutes away, to a business that we can't even close or move business forward with. And then, we're going to talk about it. Actually, after this, I'm actually going to pull up a couple routes, kind of walk through. I'm going to look at what I look at through routes. I'm actually even going to pull a couple up and like talk about what research should really look like for a couple of them. So I won't dip too far into all of that. But you guys have heard me through my training. You guys know how important I believe research is just for everything that we do on building those relationships and that trust. So also, like, I know, oh yeah, go ahead, Jericho.
Speaking of research, what is like your standing on like what's too much research, like too much fluff? Like obviously like straight to the point with it, like the rewards, like the accommodations, like hey, I'm just trying to I don't want to over research and with that like some might have some like other research, but
Yeah.
It's your go-to.
My go-to is probably 2 to 3 open-ended questions that I'm going to ask. Like I kind of said on that training, I'm just going to have like, if they're working with the Wounded Warrior Project, I'm going to say, hey, is there a specific reason that you started working with the Wounded Warrior Project? Or, if like for me getting to play ping pong with a decision maker, that was one, was like, I had in there was like, hey, are you the person that actually, I said, if you have a ping pong table, you're probably a pretty fun boss. Are you the one that actually plays ping pong, or do you just have it in the break room? So just like I said, make sure that the questions are open-ended so we're not making statements at it. Because I know, me personally, when I first got started, I had troubles getting to decision makers. One, because I wasn't using the script right. And I wasn't getting to as many. So I was surprised when one actually came out to talk to me, and I thought they were above me. So I was going straight into my 30-second commercial because I didn't want to take too much of their time. So everything that we're talking about is so that we can build that relationship and that trust with that decision maker. I mean, it's in our script, but it's not something that sometimes it gets taken lightly. That it's like, hey, did some research before coming in and I saw this. And the specific reason behind that is, like, honestly, this is just what made it click in my mind. So hopefully it does for you guys too. I want every decision maker to know that I didn't just go into a shopping center or an industrial park and hit every single business. I specifically came into your business today because I saw that you may qualify for our Worksite Advantage program. I did my research when I came in because I specifically wanted to talk to you about the program that I saw you may qualify for. I want them to know that they are special. You know what I mean? They fit within our criteria, and that's what we want. But then going into the route inspections, like I was saying, you have to take self-accountability. Your leadership is going to check over these, but they've got a lot going on. So again, you guys are the business owners in here, so take some self-accountability in what you have. Make sure you have a proper start and stop time on your routes. If you don't have the proper start and stop time, it does not optimize the right way. So if you're wondering why you drove past a business 4 times that is on your route, that's probably why. You're not completely optimized. It's not making it the most fuel efficient. Everything, all that we can really control in this whole business, we can't control what decision makers do. We can't control how gatekeepers talk to us, but we can control our time and how many businesses we can get into. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm a big fan of like asking open emotional questions, but I feel like too emotional of a question to ask. Like, for example, I like asking questions like, "What inspired you to become like an educator, like stuff like that?" What could be like costing a lot?
I don't think that anything's too personal, especially if they have it on their website or their LinkedIn or different things like that. Like, we want to emotionally connect people. So now obviously, we don't want to be like, hey, what happened with your grandma that passed away last week or something like that, of course. But if they have it on their social media, if they have it on their website, like, they have it out there for the world to see. So it's completely fine. And if they start like, how do you know that? Like, oh, like I said, I specifically came in here, I didn't just walk into the business next door. I came in to talk to you, and I'm prepared. I'm a business professional. I wanted to make sure that you understood that, we want to move things forward. But just making sure that our businesses are actually reasonably close together when we're going through things. If you have multiple businesses that are 10, 15, 20 minutes apart, I know here in Missouri, sometimes if you're in a little bit more rural area, it's hard. You get in a town with 900 people like I'm from, it's going to be really hard to have all your businesses close together. I completely get that. Especially, but just making sure that, you're not spending, an hour driving to a different town at lunch. Making sure that if you're looking at your route and you have a circle and you have one business that's a 20-minute drive for a first time walk in, maybe put that on a different route, different things like that. And so much of it is how many leads we have on our route. I know that, if you're presenting, you're doing some things, it's going to be hard to hit that 30 to 35 walk-ins a day. But we want to make sure that, if we're having troubles getting to decision makers, different things like that, we've got some extra leads on our route to where we can finish out a whole day. I don't want you finishing your route at 2 and then deciding to chalk it up and go home. You're a new business owner. Again, I always use construction because that's just where my head goes. If you just started a construction business, I promise you're not going home at 2, because I know that the construction company I worked with for that one guy, that didn't last very long, because he did. He started at 9 and ended at 3 o'clock. He was open for about a year. And that's, we're business owners. We have to be professional. Sometimes you really have to put in the work to make sure that you're going through. And then when you're doing your research, making sure you're checking Google, know what times the businesses are open. I know that me personally, I don't know how many times I pulled up to a business and been like, oh, cool, had no idea they opened at 9:30. On to the next one. So you've already drove to it once, then you're going to go to the next one, then you're going to come back to that business. You're wasting, a lot of times you can be wasting 15, 20 minutes of your own time just by not even knowing what time the business is open. So we need to maximize our time. That's like our green time when we can see those business owners and different things like that. I know that we've talked on rapport. Oh, okay, there we go. I know that we talked on rapport. I'm not going to hit on this super hard because a lot of what my other trainings were, but so much, it actually building rapport changed my career. If you want to know the truth. I did not start out of the gate super hot. It took me like a month and a half, 2 months to close my own business when I was out by myself, simply just because I wasn't building relationships with people. I was actually talking with Reggie about this morning, is that I was making statements at people. I was frustrated because I was like, I know I can talk to people. Like, I know I'm good with people. What is going on? What is the disconnect here? A lot of it is why I talk about those open-ended questions with research, because I was making statements at people. I'd walk into a gatekeeper and be like, hey, that's a really cool plant. I like it. And they're like, thanks. What can I help you with? Instead of being like, hey, that's a really cool plant. What type of plant is that? Are you the one that has to take care of this? I've also seen on the other side, don't tell them that their plants are dead and they look like crap and somebody needs to take care of them. I don't think I should have to say that, but I do. So we want to make sure we're being very respectful too as well. But everything we want is like Tony was saying, we have one mouth and 2 ears for a reason. They should be doing a lot more of the talking than us. We should be asking questions that really initiate that conversation and get them talking about themselves. Because like I even think I've said in your guys' training, I compare somebody's business to like their grandchildren. They want to show them off. They want to show you pictures. They're proud of it because they took a chance on themselves. Just like every single person that's sitting in this room, every single business owner we talk to has taken a chance on themselves. I don't care if it's a third generation. They've actually got more pressure on themselves because now I can't let this business that my family has had for 2 generations fail. So they're going to be very proud about what their family's done, different things like that. And I'm not saying in every single situation. There's going to be some that, they've got a lot going on. There's sticks in the mud, whatever it is. But we have to make an attempt at building relationships with everybody because a lot of it comes down to trust. And now this can come down into actually going back into a business, even if they're a little bit more rude to you. A lot of times they're just vetting you. And a lot of these situations, these decision makers, if they're, rush you out of there, because they know they've had salespeople that have came in there before and they figured out if they're a little bit more rude, they don't want to come back. Some business owners have literally just been like, wow, you actually came back. And I was like, yeah, I'm here. Like, I'm not going to give up on your employees just because you were a little rude to me. I'm here to protect you, your employees, and save you some tax dollars. So I really do think that I can benefit your business. And it's going to really help them actually participate in it. When you have good relationships with people, these aren't the enrollments that they push off. They make sure that you can sit down and see everybody. They actually care about your business just as much as you do, because not only do they care about you, they know that the more participation that they have, they're actually going to save some money on taxes. So that's really what's in it for you. again, I know I've had this on there. I'm gonna go through some research and some different things like that for you guys, so I'm not gonna go super into this. But so much of the public speaking is just how we're talking to people too as well. Making sure we have different pitch variation, our tone and fluctuation, and volume control all starts at knowing your scripts, guys. I promise you our scripts work. There's a lot of people, like we have psychologists and the top closers in our entire company put these scripts together. I know that a lot of it, if you think that it sounds confrontational, if you think it sounds awkward, it's probably because you're not building a good enough rapport on the front end. Because if you have good relationships with people, that the script should flow out pretty easily. And I know I already have talked about this one in prior training, so I don't want to cover a whole lot of it. I just wanted to make sure like you guys really heard it a second time. So making sure, yes.
Okay. So I got, it's not, question. Probably is, I don't know. But yeah, so I kind of rephrase how I talk to people. You know, when they say I'm not interested, and I say, hey, quick question, what's the main reason why you don't think this is a good fit? Is it the cost, is the participation? Can you elaborate and explain to me? Can you elaborate and tell me what's the reason? Is that a good thing?
No, I think that's great. After you've utilized the first, obviously, being like, hey, I get it. I just walked in off for me. What I say, because again, I want you to know the scripts like the back of your hand and then make them a little bit more yourself. I walk in, I'm like, hey, I get it. You had some random bald guy walk into your business. You have no idea who he is. But I really do think that if you saw how I've helped other businesses at no cost, you'd really see the value. Is now a good time. And then if they still repeat, I'm not interested, I'm 1,000% with you. Because I'm not interested isn't a rebuttal. I don't know. I can't fix your problem if you just tell me you're not interested. Another way that I kind of go about that, even if after you say that, or you're trying to get some more information out of them and they just keep reiterating that they're not interested.
They have a whole bunch of college students. How can I?
Okay, well, I'll get to that after this first one, but I'll try to almost like if they tell me they're not interested 2-3 different times, I'm gonna say, hey, I completely understand that you're not interested. When business owners tell me that, a lot of times that just means that right now is not a good time. I'm actually going to be back in the area, and I go right in my appointment script because that's going to elicit them to actually tell me why they're not interested. You know what I mean? It's not going to be that. I've seen a lot in the field that if you go for those appointment times after they tell you you're not interested, then you're figuring out what their rebuttal is, and then you can go from there. When it comes down to college kids, different things like that, like, hey, if you want to know the truth, these college kids, these high school kids, a lot of times they're on their parents' insurance right now. I get that, but they're about to get bumped off of that when they turned 25. They are never going to be able to pick up a policy at the rate that they're going to right now. And I don't see myself as a salesman. I see myself as an educator. So I just want to sit down with them, educate them on the importance of their life insurance and how important it is for their families and different things like that if something were to happen to them. But that's kind of a route that I go with that. Does anybody have any questions on any of that? Did that answer your question at all? Or did I go around it too much?
No, you do.
Okay. I always want to make sure that I'm not a politician and go around your answer and don't actually answer it. And then making sure that, again, we're not staring through people's souls being really creepy and we get the cops called on us, but making sure we have good eye contact. For me, this was hard because it's not even that I don't want to make eye contact. When I think, I look down. That's all it was. And people with me would be like, hey, you're not making eye contact. It's making you seem shady. You know what I mean? They ask you a question and you're looking down. And it's when I think. So I had to be very conscious of, okay, look them in the eye, especially when we're shaking hands. If they ask me a question, being very direct with them. Because like I was saying, a lot of these people are vetting you. I think about the warehouse that I worked at and the insurance people that would come in to try to sell us life insurance and different things like that. We put them through the ringer. I mean, we were a rough group, and, just working in that warehouse. And we gave the insurance people a lot of help, in a fun way most of the time. But they need to know that you can handle that. You're not going to let one little comment, deter you from actually, helping out their employees, because then that is going to be a big waste of their time. But making sure we've got purposeful gestures, your hand movement. I had to tone that down because I'm like the wacky inflatable arm guy. And then making sure that we have good posture. We're going in and owning the room. every single time. Like we're going in, we're not tiptoeing in a business. We're going in, we're owning the room. We're going to be the first person to initiate contact. We're not going in waiting for them to talk to us because we can't control that conversation. So making sure you're the first person to talk to a gatekeeper, even if you walk in and it's like, there's plenty of businesses you walk in and the gatekeeper's back there, in Tony's office, making sure that it's like, hey, how you doing? Making sure no matter what, we're initiating that conversation. Obviously, if it's in a library, don't yell like that, but make sure that we're the person that's starting with all of that. And then just controlling our expressions. Again, they're vetting you. They're seeing what you can take and can't take. So if you get angry at one of their rebuttals or come back to them with attitude, they're going to know, okay, well, I don't want this person sitting with my employees if they can't even be professional with me. But yeah, go ahead, Portland.
So I have I had a question, this is what I had to do last week. So like you said, I had, it was none of them, but gatekeeper, it was kind of far out, like in the back. And I said, hey, good morning, it smells pretty good up in here. And so they ignored me. So I just put my hand up like this and I'm waiting. So how can I help you? Such and such here, I want to speak. So I'm Portia, by the way, how you doing? But when they ignore you, what is another way to kind of like not feel like you're bothered? Because I don't like it.
No, nobody does. No, that's definitely disrespectful. Again, we're not the first salespeople that they've seen. If they own a business and especially a gatekeeper, no matter what, whether it's us, Colonial, Aflac, if it's just people trying to talk to them about products, they're going to see some people, I guess. So like come in there with a little bit of grace, like, hey, oh, I will just call them out. I'm like, oh, hey, I don't know if you heard me. I actually asked this. You know what I mean? Like I'm completely fine with calling them out and asking them that question, just simply because one, maybe they didn't hear me. Two, that's awkward for them. They're probably going to answer my question after that. So that's a direction that I would go with that. But just be happy, bubbly, be a person that people want to conversate with. And then I just wanted to pull this up. If you guys don't know, this is on page 8. This helped me a whole lot at really, like, I could talk about open-ended questions all I wanted, but like everything we do, we talk about role play in the car. You do a whole lot of role play when you're in classroom training. We want to make sure that now, if we know we need to work on rapport, we can play this game in the car or different things like that. I did this game with my cousins because at that time I didn't have a significant other, so I'd make my cousins play the rapport game with me. I don't care if you got to do it with your dog or your cat or a wall. I don't care what it is. A snail. I don't want to judge here, but just make sure that this can be a tool that we can use, and it's in your worksite training guide. And part of it is I didn't know this was actually in it until like 6 months in my career, so that's why I always bring this up so that everybody knows that you actually can use this. So for one of you guys, actually Nick, I'm gonna pick on you, especially since you got Chick-fil-A. How sick of saying is now a good time were you by the time you got done with classroom training?
He was maybe getting clear on.
Okay. Yeah, I get it. Like we beat that into your head. It's because this is where everything starts. All of our stuff, that's where it starts. If we don't ask if now is a good time, we can't lead into anything else. If now isn't a good time, we're going to that appointment. But if we're not trying to get a presentation right then, like, what are we doing? You know what I mean? If you've been here for even 2-3 months, you know that I thought like, hey, people own businesses, they're going to be in their business. A lot of times that's not the case. They're snow bunnies and they live, in Florida when it's cold and they come back up here when it's warm and whatever it is. Business owners aren't in. So I want to capitalize every single time if they're right there. I want to be like, hey, is now a good time? Because none of our rebuttals work if we don't ask if now is a good time. So if that's something you struggle with, again, I'm going to lean back into, you probably thought that was awkward because you didn't build any rapport with them. Again, I know that there's going to be some people that are rough, but we have to ask if now is a good time, even if they look a little bit busy. A lot of times, I'm not asking if now is a good time simply because, I understand that they're busy. It's because I'm setting myself up to ask if this afternoon is going to work better. Hey, I realize you may be busy. Is now a good time? They're like, no, I've got all this going on. Oh, no, that's fine. I'm actually in town all day working with a couple businesses. I actually have 3:15 or 4:45 available. Which one works better for you? You know what I mean? Just making sure that we're going through everything if the time is now. And that's also going to elicit them to actually start giving us their rebuttals. You know, a lot of times if we're not asking this, you are going to get, I'm not interested multiple times because we're not trying to tie anything down, different things like that. But let's shoot for the presentation right then. Again, we may never catch them again. They like it may take us 6 more months before we get in front of that decision maker. I don't ever say anything's luck, but you know, honestly, it's right time, right place, and having the right tools to move business forward in a lot of situations. I know that there'd be times somebody would go into a business that I had been into probably 5 times and be like, yeah, I walked in and the decision maker was actually in the lobby. I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. They were right there. I've never seen this person. So let's make sure that we're capitalizing on our time and different things like that. And then I know that we have this on the webinars. This is something that I did not utilize in the field, and I wish it would. I think that my conversions would have been up. I think my closes all around, I would have got through more presentations because I would be in 4 different places each week. I would maybe be in Fredericktown, Kabul one week, maybe Mulberry the next day. Like I was all over the place. So it made it really hard for me to push business forward because I was setting appointments for 2 weeks out because I wasn't going to be back in that area until then because I had spread myself so thin. So if we set something for the same day within 24 hours, that's why I'm pushing for is now a good time or is this afternoon good if we don't have enrollments or appointments. Because if we get there within the same day or within that first 24 hours, we're already losing 10% there. Like 10% of the time, those appointments aren't going to run. Now, I'm not saying that they won't reschedule, but we still have a time that they're not. So we want to make sure that we're getting the same day. Once we get within, like after that 24 to 48 hours, that drops down another 15% all the way to 75% of the time that those appointments are going to run. So we got 25% of 1 out of 4 aren't going to run after that 24-hour time period. If we have to set it the next week, only half the time those presentations are going to go. And then if you're setting something out 2 weeks or more, that's like in our stats, 5% of those actually go through the very first time when we come and sit down with them. So there's some different things that we can do to make sure that we are. I always tell everybody that I'm not showing up somewhere a second time empty-handed. I'm going to ask them like, what coffee do you like? If they won't tell me anything, it doesn't have to be anything extravagant, guys. I mean, you can go to Dollar Tree, get baggies full of candy. We've got Easter almost coming up. Throw a couple Reese's eggs in there. Just something, because the psychology of things is they gave me something, they're going to be a lot more willing to give me time. And even if they don't give you that time, then they're a lot more likely to reschedule. And for you guys, I did not want to do this. If you want to know the truth, I'm like, I'm a man walking in, giving another man a present. That seems very awkward to me. I do not want to do that, even a little bit. I promise you, you're going to build better relationships with people. You're going to see that it actually starts benefiting your business all around. And guys, I know you literally saw this morning, but like I said, this is the only cheat code we have. I know that I've told you guys a couple stories. I promise you referrals, whatever you got to do to remind yourself, whether you got to staple a sheet on the back of your work site, your 125, if you need to add a slide to if you need to make a note on it on your presentation, I had sticky notes on my benefit fact sheet. One was referrals and the other one was slow down because, again, like you guys can tell, I have a little bit of trouble talking too fast. So again, work on it. I make myself watch the webinars back, different trainings, different things like that to work on it and still talk a little bit fast. But those were the things that I knew I needed to work on. For a long time it was rapport. So I would have a sticky note that said, be in a business for a minute before I even ask for the decision maker. I would sit in there and it was awkward. I'm not going to act like it wasn't at times because they did not want to talk to me, but I was not going to tell them while I was there for a minute. Then I started getting more comfortable. Then I started realizing, okay, when I asked this question, that I started actually getting them involved in the conversation. When I asked them this, they shut it down right off the bat. So I know it sounds super cliche, but every single business that you go into, you're getting a little bit better, even if you're failing. I promise you guys that. But like I said, these referrals, whatever you got to do to put in front of you, ask for referrals, please. I promise you, you're going to get into more presentations. You're going to close more cases, and you're going to have cases that enroll even better because they already have that level of trust because it came from somebody else that you've already enrolled. And I'm big into, I know that we talk about verbal ones. If you can get these golden tickets, I mean, really, it is like Willy Wonka in the Chocolate Factory because you walk in, you hand them this golden ticket. How are they going to tell you no when one of their friends or one of their business partners or somebody that they do business with literally put on there, please give Zane 15 minutes of your time. I'm glad I did. You should too. I don't know that I had somebody not ever let me present when I had a golden ticket. Just like in general, like 10 out of 10, 100% of the time, they let me present when I had one of these golden tickets. Now, when I had verbal ones, there were times that, they'd be like, no, I'm not really interested, this and that, because we don't have that credibility. And I'm not saying there aren't times that they just don't have time to write something out for you or different things like that. But if we can do everything we can to get these golden tickets, that's one of the biggest things that I have seen and personally used to close more cases in the field. So when can we do these existing accounts for all of you that have been here for a little bit? Rule of thumb that I had for everybody on my team was we're stopping in at each one of our businesses at least once a quarter. Whatever you've got to do, because customer service is so important in what we do. So much of the trust is lost because Aflac, dropped the ball, and you've went into, if you've been here for even a month, you probably walked into a business that they're like, yeah, our Aflac agent came in, or we see them once a year and then they write us business and we never see them again. We want to be different than everybody else. We want to separate ourselves. One, not only because we want it for the customer service side, but we can also use it to our advantage. We're already working with that business. We're already showing them that we're showing back up for them. Let's ask for some referrals. Hey, like I know I asked you during the Blue Book delivery, like, is there anybody else that you thought about? Is there any other new businesses that you guys are doing business with that would be good for me to, go in and aggravate? One of my lines, and I know that it was funny. I've actually never had anybody take notes and like send them to me on when I do trainings like Diana did. And so I know that this is one of the things, but I will tell people like, hey, who do you know? Who do you do business with that has 5 employees? Who do you not like that you want me to go aggravate? That softens the blow a little bit, makes it a little bit more fun for those ones that might not be wanting to give things up. Your Blue Book delivery, after you closed enrolled, a lot of times this is actually probably where I got the most referrals, because during their enrollment, we've had an entire day. We're talking, I put them on the spot. They are like, oh, I can't really think of anybody. When I come back for that Blue Book delivery and I ask him, they're like, oh yeah, I remember I had a couple people that I, didn't think about, different things like that. After each presentation and different things like that, I know that I skipped over that, but we've talked about referrals enough. So we're going to go into this. This so much changed my career just in general. Because I want to tell you guys about the very first claim that I filed personally, because that's what changed my career and let me be a little bit more persistent. It made me make sure that I was following the system the right way, because I, at that point, started taking personal responsibility for each business I went into and their employees and their families. It was a road and bridge crew for a county that we were working with. I think I was like 2.5 months in. And we went in, it was the end of the day. We had already enrolled everybody else. We walk into their road and bridge shop, and they walk in and they're like, oh, great. The insurance people here are great. This is fantastic. Da, 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 da. Like, putting us through it right as soon as we walk in the door. We didn't let that deter us. We, started talking to them, building some good relationships, different things like that. And I actually sat down with the first guy, and we're sitting there talking. I know that I'm not dressed like it, but I'm a little bit of a redneck. I hunt, I fish, I do all that kind of different things. We started talking about fishing and hunting and all this kind of stuff. We start going through stuff. He didn't have life insurance, but he couldn't afford it. Cancer, he wasn't really worried about that. We start talking about critical illness. I'm asking him if he's got stuff, and he's like, actually, my dad passed away from a heart attack. Well, no, not passed away. He had a heart attack when he was a year older than I am right now. And I was like, hey man, I understand. And we looked at it, and I still remember to this day, it was $10.13 bi-weekly. And he was sitting there and he's like, I just don't know that we can afford it. He's like, I'm going to be straight up with you. Stuff is tight. I'm not gonna act like it's not. He's like, I do see the value in this, and I do think that I need it, but let me talk with the wife, let me get some stuff figured out. He ended up getting that policy with me on a Monday. About 2 months later, he called me, saying, hey, called me from the hospital. Hey, do I have this policy in place? I actually just had a heart attack. I was like, okay, send me the paperwork. Your policy is in effect. I can't promise you anything. You know, it has to go through the whole process. But when I got the email that his policy was going through, I gave him a call. And this full-grown, very rugged man that works on the road and bridge crew, you could tell he was in tears when he was talking to me on the phone. I get on the phone, he was like, thank you so much. He goes, my wife works part-time at a gas station, can't even pick up more hours. I have no idea how we're going to pay rent this month. And that just opened my eyes. I was like, okay, I'm not just a salesman coming and knocking on doors. Like, I know that we talk about it all the time about how we're helping families. But when I felt that, I felt like his relief in his voice and like how much he was like, okay, I can take a breath. I can take a little bit more time off of work now and don't have to go back next week when I just had a heart attack because I'm worried about money. So I'm going to have another heart attack because I'm stressed out of things, different things like that. So we are not a burden. You know, do not be afraid to take up space. If they're busy, I understand everybody's busy. I'm busy. I've got 25 other businesses I'm hitting today. Make sure that we understand like how important this is and just really think about the people that you're closest to, your friends, your family, different things like that. Anybody that you interact with. I know that my family and friends, I would say 95% of them do not have the money in the bank if they were to pass away on the drive home to be able to take care of their final expenses, you know, make sure that their family was taken care of for the next year, different things like that. So just really think about them. You know, if this was your friends or family that were working at this business, how much harder would you push to get your foot in the door? You know, take self-responsibility, be intentional with every single walk-in. That's one of the big things too. I know I don't have a slide on this, but it's very easy to take a couple walk-ins off. It is. It is like you're like, I've been in here 2 times. Decision maker's never in. Excuse me, and the gatekeeper isn't exactly the nicest person here. Making sure we're going in, you know, Betty, I know that she's rough, but you know, again, with like the treats or different things like that, I'll have a couple Reese's eggs being like, Betty, I'm gonna wear you down. We're gonna be friends by the end of this, Betty. All right, just so you know, dropping her off some Reese's eggs, whatever it is, we've got to separate ourselves from the other people that are going in. And just remember, we are helping people. We are like we are helping people out when they're in the worst part of their lives, whether somebody's passed away, whether they just got diagnosed with cancer and they don't know what where their paychecks are gonna come from when they're out of work or different things like that.
So I got a question.
Yeah.
I normally do bring like snacks and treats when I do my presentation and my road. Think I should go do it with the road with the walk-ins?
Just if I honestly, I only did if somebody was real rough on me. If you want to know the truth, like if because also they're good at their job. They're like, if you got to think these gatekeepers, their entire job, like yes, it's to answer the phones, but it's to like ward us off. I didn't even realize that my cousin worked for a law office, and she was like, "No, we train our receptionists. If somebody comes in asking for somebody that they don't have an appointment for, they're in a conference call. They're not in." You know, they're trained to do this. You know what I mean? So a lot of times they're doing their job. And if they're a little bit more rough, yeah, I will. I'll bring them a treat and like I said, I'll be like, hey, I just want to be friends. Yeah, I'm just trying to build relationships. You know what I mean? Like, hey, like I know we didn't get off on the best start the first time. Did I tell you guys the story about my health departments on the training or anything like that? Okay, that's what I thought. So like her, she was a very rough decision maker, and she was actually working at the front desk the very first time that I went in, and like pretty much kicked me out of the business. Went in there, I actually brought her donuts and was like, hey, I really can help your clients. She gave me golden tickets. I closed a bunch of cases off of it. Those people that are rough, the businesses that are harder to get into, the decision makers that are harder on you, those are going to be your best clients. Just straight up. If you walk in, close the case, immediately set the enrollment up for 2 days. I'm not saying that they can't be great accounts. I'm not saying that. I had some of the best accounts from that. But the majority of them, those are the ones that don't pay their bills on the time. You know, those are the ones that you have trouble sitting down with everybody when you're enrolling in different things like that. The people that are rough on you and the people that take you a little bit for you to like get pushed past and separate yourself, those are the people that pay their bills on time. You sit down and see everybody. When you get a referral from them, it carries weight. So they're gonna make sure that like if people say like, oh, you're working with them, like if you got past them, yeah, let me see what's going on. With that health department, I had somebody that didn't even want me to present. They were like, Cheryl, you do work with Cheryl. If she sees the benefit of you doing it, come in and do it with my guys. It's like, no, hey, I've went through this where I didn't completely present and didn't get to see everybody and you didn't realize it was payroll deducted. Let me run you through it just so that you understand. But yeah, those people that are rough, like I love them. I'm like, heck yeah, when I get through to you, we're gonna really do some good stuff here and I'm gonna write a bunch of premium. So again, and this is like I said, we're gonna pull up some stuff and we're gonna talk about routes and different things like that. But this week, take some self-responsibility. What is actually gonna set you apart from Colonial, from Aflac, from if you want to know the truth, the people over there in Springfield or the St. Louis office here, what's going to separate you from them? All right. What relationships are you going to build this week that they're going to be like, no matter what, I'm doing business with this person. All right. Are we going to have good research? Are we going to be intentional with every single walk-in? Whatever it is that you know you struggle in, you already know probably. Unless you're brand new, you have no idea yet, and then you'll figure that out. But whatever you need to do to really change, to set yourself apart from everybody else. Okay, so. Wow, I really went on a rant here. Okay, so final tips and takeaways. Make sure that we're rehearsing all the time. Record yourself. Not going to get into that whole lot. The main thing that I have here is set personal goals. Whatever your goals are for like every single day. Like I want short, medium, long-term goals. So for this day, like what's my goal? My first goal was don't get skunked. Like get it on spot, get an appointment, no matter what. Then that moved up, whatever it was. It was for a long time, it was closed more than one case in a week, then it was closed more than two, I never actually broke that close 3 cases in a week. Multiple times I would close 3. I don't know why. It'd be like I wouldn't get a roster for the 4th one. It would tick me off, but set those personal goals for yourself. Vision boards. I know that I was not super on and like woohoo vision boards. I was like, this doesn't sound like something good. But if you wake up, you're looking at it, and it's in front of your face, you know what you want. Like if you want a house, you want a car, you want to build, financial wealth for your family. You want to change, how you grew up. You want different for your kids. You want a different life. Put that in front of you. Make sure you have it in front of you so that you are motivated every single week. Go ahead. January was 3 years. I've been in this travel position for like a year and 4 months. I was in the field for almost 2 years before I started this travel job.
So after you closed your first case, after you said a month and a half, 2 months, how fast did you go up? Like how fast did you go?
I closed that first one, and then I think it was a couple weeks later I closed 1 or 2. We did at Knuckles Agency. We actually did a March Madness, and that was over cases, premium, everything like that. I actually beat everybody in the March Madness of the entire Knuckles Agency, including the #1 closing agent, Lori, the year before. And then I got stagnant, actually. That I kind of got a little complacent, and then I had my supervisor kind of put her foot up my butt, was like, if you're wanting to move up, keep the foot on that. You're good.
So normally 85-90% I have living.
Yeah.
It'd be like every blue moon, probably one time, not every week, but just like say, I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
Sorry.
Don't worry about it. That was the one thing I was worried about when I started this job. I was like, I actually have HR now. I've got to watch my mouth. So you're good.
So like last week, I'm like,
yeah.
Everybody give me advice.
So me personally, there's a lot of different things but me personally, I had a really good relationship with my supervisor, and I would call her and be like, hey, I need you to tell me I don't suck right now because I'm going through it. Okay. Like, coach me through. Sometimes she would, and sometimes she'd be like, yeah, you did 11 walk-ins. Of course, you're not getting anything out of it. You know what I mean? Sometimes I needed a little bit of not a good conversation, but sometimes it was like, hey, every day's not going to be good. But every single day when we go out in the field, we're one walking away from having a fantastic day. You know what I mean? So just remembering that and not carrying it back in. For me, I actually put like Bruno Mars on the radio and I would sing and dance and like get myself out of my headspace. I know some people will actually go. Okay, I like that. I like that. That's great. I had somebody that one of the supervisors where I used to work, he would go to an antique store and walk around for like 10, 15 minutes, talk to the people working in there. He's like, nobody's going to be rude to you in an antique store. Everybody's just super excited to talk to you. And then you get a good interaction with somebody. It's like, okay, back at it. I completely understand. Sometimes you got to take 10, 15 minutes for yourself. And, there would be times I didn't take lunch a whole lot. There would be some days like, okay, I'm taking a lunch today, taking a breather. Because this job is a roller coaster. We're dealing with people, but just making sure whatever it is, like get with your management, like know that you have that open line of communication that, hey, talk me up, talk me down. What can I do here? You know what I mean? Yeah.
So like I said in the question, I'm very emotional, and whenever I read into the room too much, and I can tell when someone does not obviously want me there. They obviously don't want me there. What is like the best way you can overcome like that situation?
Honestly, being a goldfish, like, I mean, you got to think people have lives going on. If somebody's rude to me, the first thing that I made myself start thinking was, okay, somebody walked in and kicked their dog first thing this morning. If they're rude to you, they don't see the value in you. That's not a reflection on you. That's a reflection on them. Like, and really they're missing out on, you helping their employees, saving them money, like, on to the next one. That's why we have 30 businesses that we hit on. If you take it personally, it was hard for me. I was frustrated for that whole first month. Like, I was frustrated going out every week, like banging my head on a wall, like, what is going on? Like, I not to sound cocky, but when I do things, I'm normally okay. Like when it comes down, like I played sports growing up, different things like that, whatever it was, I normally was okay at it. And for me to not be good at things, I took it personally. Like I was mad all the time. My supervisor had to talk me off the ledge a lot of the times, because if I'm going to be straight up with you guys, sometimes the hardest part of this business is not quitting. I mean, it's not, you guys are doing probably one of the hardest sales jobs there is, personally. Somebody working at a mattress store, somebody came in shopping for a mattress. You know what I mean? We've got to go in and get somebody to believe in what we're selling and why we're selling it to even let us option. So just know what you're doing is hard, but you can make it a lot easier on yourself by just trusting the system and doing the things that you know that you need to do. If you're not like, I am going to kind of bring this up. We might not go through routes. I may just sit down with people if you guys have questions after this, but if you're doing 30, 35 walk-ins in a week, you are working part-time and expecting full-time pay. If you don't get into at least like now that month and a half, I was hitting 80, 90 businesses every single week, because I knew eventually things would pick up. I knew that, if I just trusted it, I kept going on. I wasn't 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I didn't have a backup plan because I was like, this is what I'm doing. I want to change my life, my career, different things like that. And I'll tell you guys my story when we have the agency meeting and different things like that and on how it got started. But don't let that kind of stuff hold you back. Like, yes.
Okay, after our training with you last time, it came up to talk to you about business cards. Like, if they say leave your card and for them to like, what's your take on that?
I'm not leaving anything. Like, I'm not leaving business cards. I'm not emailing people. I'm doing everything that I can do personally. Because one, if you leave a business card, you're kind of burning your own lead. You leave a business card with a gatekeeper, you can walk in and be like, we gave them your business card. If they didn't reach out, they're not interested. Where are you going to go from there? You know what I mean? So that's a lot of the reasons I will tell people. One, like if they want me to leave a business card, different things like that, I will tell them, hey, I'm old school. I like to at least introduce myself before, I lean into like, I leave my business card. I will tell them also like, hey, this has my personal information on it. This has my cell phone number on it. I don't just leave this with people that I haven't met before. I also will just be like, hey, if I'm going to be honest, I've had too many of my business cards end up in the trash. and they're expensive. So until I meet him, as a business professional, I'm going to, keep popping my head in here. And it's the same with emails. It was hard for me not to email. I actually sent like 15 emails my third week and spent like 3 hours like personalizing these emails. And within like an hour and a half, I got like 12 no's and the other three didn't answer. I was like, well, this is why they told me not to email. Again, it's burning your leads. We can't go back into it if they're like, hey, did you email them? I'm like, yeah, I emailed them. They're like, that's your answer. Where can I go from there? It's really hard. So much of what we do is holding our cards close to our chest, making sure that we're not giving them too much information. We're sticking to that gatekeeper script. Hey, we saw that Jerry qualifies for our Worksite Advantage program. That's why I need to speak with him directly. It's a very polite way of saying this is above your head, sweetheart. I need to talk to them. You know what I mean? So, and there's going to be some that are very adamant on it. They're like, well, if you don't leave me a business card, I can't do anything with it. That's fine. I'll be back next week. Sorry, one sec.
Yeah, actually kind
He
of
was
answered
first.
my question.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Because like, especially when they are out, can we go to is the smart minutes to go to the person that's usually gonna be there 24/7?
Not really. Not really, because then you're playing the telephone game with it. Like I will set like a follow up, in there to make sure that I come back and that maybe touch base. But it's just like if you're going to a veterinary office and you're presenting the office manager, different things like that. If there's somebody that can tell them no, we work really hard on knowing our presentation. We know the insurance stuff out and out and about, and I guarantee you, even if they take good notes, they do all of this, they're going being like, hey, some lady from Globe Life wants to sell us some life insurance. Is this something that we want to do? No matter what, they're not going to present our product as good as we can. So, and I will tell people that. I'll be like, hey, if it's an all body shop, I'm like, hey, you don't even want me out there changing somebody's oil. So I don't want you presenting my product. I'm the insurance professional here. I like to be able to present my own product, whatever it is, like veterinary, like, hey, you don't want me doing surgery on a dog, whatever it is. Like I'm very good at presenting my product. I just want that opportunity. It's the same as, you sit down with them and they tell you they're not the only decision maker. I'm going to try to schedule something with them. I'm not even going to present right there. I'm not going to show them the things just so that they can take some bullet points and go talk to them about it. So much of our presentation has that psychology of the getting the yeses and getting that and having the assumptive close. And if we can't do that, then we're not going to be moving business forward. We actually got to where, if people were sending emails and different stuff like that, we wouldn't give them more leads until they started not emailing and leaving business cards, because you're just setting yourself up for failure there.
Follow up.
No, the only time I was emailing somebody is if I had already sat down and presented them with a product and I couldn't get that yes and they wanted to that information. That I didn't send an email until I had sat down with somebody and presented. Okay, that's fine. All right, guys, I think I'm definitely out with time now. If you guys like, I'm gonna go through and like start looking at some people's routes and different things like that too. If you have questions on routes, I know that we didn't get to that. My bad. I get long-winded. That's 100% on me. I take full responsibility. But thank you guys. I really appreciate all your guys' questions. That makes my life a lot easier, just so you guys know, because again, I want it to be interactive. I want